Three. Yo, we live. We out here. Fading Embers podcast. I'm Julian Ben. Got my man Trevor Stevens here in the chat. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. We got a great topic for you today. We are in season two, and we will be talking about Beautiful Eulogy's third studio album, Worthy. It dropped at the end of last year. It is super dope, and me and Trevor are going to be chopping it up. If you are not familiar with Humble Beast, check them out. Go to humblebeast.com. They are a non-profit record label. Then they make music that's gospel centered. Some obviously it's going to be more gospel explicit than others, but the labels had all types of great rappers and talent. Everyone from Jackie Hill Perry, Eshawn Burgundy was previously signed to them. Jay Givens. They've also done a lot of really good work as well in collaboration with a lot of other popular artists in CHH as well. So they've done a lot of really great work. Had a huge impact on my life. And guess what? All of their music can be downloaded from their website for free. Definitely feel free to check it out. But you can also support them by buying their music on iTunes or buying physical CDs and everything. Worthy. And so more specifically, on the Humble Beast label, the founders, the two founders and owners of Humble Beast, Thomas Terry, also known as Odd Thomas, and Brian Winchester, also known as Braille, OGs in the genre. They've been around for a long time, and then their partner in crime, Cortland O'Brano, who's a fantastic and really just dope. Producer. The three of them together make Beautiful Eulogy, and this is it. This is their third album here. It's 12 tracks of goodness. And Trevor, please tell the people a little bit about yourself and where you from, what you do, and I guess we can get started after that.
Cool. So I am Trevor Stevens. Pretty much I am first off, I'm a believer. But also, I currently stay in South Carolina. Known Julian for well over 10 years, back to Winthrop University in Iraq. Pretty much, I work with PlayStation right now, but I'm going to school for theology. Right now, I'm doing theological studies, but I actually want a concentration in ancient Near Eastern cultures, just to kind of get a more basic understanding of how everything was written and why it was written a certain way. Which I think we'll get to in another podcast. But definitely enjoy Humble Beast. Like once I was actually introduced to that in 2012 by Julian. It was like one of my wedding gifts from him. He got me Satellite Kite. And I was like, yo, this is dope. After that, because I had actually been like pretty much away from gospel rap because I was just sick of it. I was just sick of the imitations of all the other rappers that were actually out on the field. It was one dude, I won't say his name, but but he was pretty much stealing beats from rappers, and he would just change the words up to make it sound like Jesus was just a part of it. But I was like, I remember when I was unsaved, it was like I was coming out of the darkness in the light, and that transition was hard because the music that dude made was pulling me back in because it was the same beat, same everything. But instead of saying like Joe Budden, bump it up, he said praise it up. I'm like, it's still the same song, bro. It's not helping anybody. But these guys are original, and I appreciate originality. I appreciate ingenuity. So sacrifice for the gift that they have in them. So
amen to that. All right. Well, if we chop the album up in half, why don't you start us off, talk about the first 6 tracks, which I guess that will take us from Wait to Messiah, and then we can go from there.
Yeah. So definitely this album, I have to say, is to me the best crafted album. Like from start to finish, there was a vibe where the entire album was going to go on one note. Which I thought was pretty cool because in the very first track, you hear this organ playing, and the organ beat was so dope that you was like, that's got to be the only time I hear this. Nope. The Julian will probably get it till later on because it does appear later on, like 2 or 3 more times throughout the album. So we got this one consistent sound that
Yeah.
is pretty much changed for every single song, but each one of the songs retains a certain part of that same sound that puts you in a place of worship. So you start out with Wait, and it's a pretty much a spoken word by OT, well, which is Odd Thomas. I just call him OT.
Mhm.
And Odd Thomas, he's like just pretty much like giving you the levity of what's about what they're actually doing with this album, and then immediately, like, once it's done, it's short. It's probably like, trying to think, like 40, like probably a minute, maybe. It's like a minute and some change. It's not real long. Like the Wait was real quick. And then immediately we're into If, which is the second track of the album.
Yeah.
And Cortland just did something beautiful with the beat. I mean, it's wondrous. It makes you want to see what they're doing. It makes you think. It makes you feel. All of those elements are within that one beat. Like just that the very beginning with that whimsical intro, and then all of a sudden it goes into a deep beat. So if you got 808s, man, it will still thump. Um, and of course, OT starts it out, and Braille, my God, Braille, Braille, just goodness, he just came in and just like murdered the track. Man, I was like, God, we didn't really need this, but hey, I'll take it. I mean, like just the so I like a couple of pieces I like to pull out of OT's part of it. That was real hard because he was giving people the literally the weight of ministry and of serving the Father. Where he was like, if you took everything that I own, everything that you've given from heaven above, everything that I've ever known, if you stripped away my ministry, my influence, my reputation, my health, my happiness, my friends, my pride, and my expectations, if you cause for me to suffer, or to suffer for the cause of the cross, if you cost my allegiance in prison, I mean, it's he's pretty much laying down all these parts that normally causes people to run from Christianity,
Mhm.
and he sums it up by saying, that I came into this world with nothing, and when I die, I'll be the same, and I'll praise your name in the giving and taking away. And if I have you, I lose. If I have you, I can lose everything and still consider it gain. Like that's how he ends his verse. And Braille just jumps in with everyone who trusts in you shall not be put to shame. I mean, will not be put to shame. I was like, just stop, just stop there. But it was so good. So you come off of those two, that high, and then you get into Sovereign. Sovereign slows it down. Sovereign, like once again, like the beat, also taking a small note from the very first track, Wait. And like I said, it just kind of gives you that riding along the interstate vibe. You got a good feel for it. Sovereign, to me, it's like nothing against Sovereign, but Sovereign wasn't one of the ones that I thoroughly enjoyed the most
Mhm.
on the album. That's like, no, like I said, not knocking. It's a fantastic song, but it wasn't one of the ones that like just had me like, oh my God, just smacking me upside the head with it. But
It was
Sovereign
real experimental. It had a very sort of
was
experimental kind of sound.
was. I mean, like there was probably like 3 to 4 different changes to the beat in that song. Like the very beginning was like, it's very calm, and then they went into like a whine, and it
Mhm.
came back down to the beat. It was, like I said, it was very nice. I thought it was a very good way to come off of If and Wait, because those two were heavy.
Yeah.
And we get the Sovereign. I'm like, thank you for mellowing me out, because it felt like it was about to just keep going up, and I'd have been under a table somewhere. So yeah, I was like, thank you for giving us that one break, and then we jump into Doxology with Latifah, and goodness gracious, man, also another wonderful song. It was also kind of in that same vein as Sovereign, where it was still mellowing you out, like in a very good way. It gave you that good feel. good beat. Once again, a contemplative beat where you had to sit down and consider the things that they were saying, which I thought was like a lot of artists don't do that anymore. Like a lot of artists now just like they want to hit you with head rockers and they want to throw all these analogies at you and they want to have you thinking about their metaphors for like 6-7 days. And I'm like, that's cool. But then you look at their metaphors are worthless. And I'm like, okay, just because you said that, something was this way and it wasn't this way doesn't really add to the fact that the song was dope. It just adds to the fact that you're just good at changing words up. It's not a bad thing, but it's also not a very good thing if that's all that you focus on. So then we got another brief intermission with Overture. Overture, just like one of the things that they've kind of incorporated since the very first album. They just do like a kind of like a praise break. That's pretty much what I feel about it. It's like just like let's just play music. And there's no words. Something you can just play in the background. Very, very nice, very mellow. Once again, also very contemplative. And then we get smacked in the face by Messiah. So, and that's in every sense of the word. That's pretty much exactly what happened because Messiah, should at least it should insult you, not in a mean way, but it should make you think about what you're doing. Like the chorus is, I can't always rely on my desires, but I treat them like a Messiah.
Yeah.
I can't always rely on my desires, but I treat them like a Messiah. Like that, just starting the song out like that. And just, pressing it. Thomas just went in. I mean, it was yeah. I mean, it's comfortably uncomfortable. Where it challenged you, to look at certain things that you're battling and look at like how they are ruling you in certain ways. Some people that's actually ruling them. And he's like, this is not what you want to actually have happen. This is not your Messiah. You have a greater Messiah. Braille, especially, he when he like Braille, because Braille is very transparent about his issues with being social. Which I thought was a very nice touch to end the conversation on, because a lot of the issues we have in this generation is the fact that the bridge can't be connected because people don't really get each other. And Braille, began to express that in the song, and I was like, wow, just having the satisfaction is my search for satisfaction, as if I lack it when in fact I lack nothing. He went directly after his own issue. He wasn't trying to target anybody else. It was wonderful. And then of course, Thomas just ended it with another spoken word. I think one of the things I realized is that throughout the entire album, OT would end up bridging the narrative of the whole album with a spoken word. And he did it, I think it's at least 3 times he did that. He did it once in the beginning, once in the middle, and once at the very end, where if you put them all together, because I was just experimenting, if I put Wait, if I put Messiah, and he's going to get to Emmanuel, and I put all 3 of those side by side, and I read those, you'll see it's almost like you're watching a little arrow pointing to the next narrative when it goes into the album. So it was very well crafted, man. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the way that they built this.
Yeah, it was super dope. Messiah and If are probably my favorite songs on the album. If probably for sure. If is definitely my favorite song on the album. But Messiah is also it was the first single off the album before they dropped it. Man, it's super dope. And they've got Citizens and Saints coming in there for the bridge. And then also doing some of the I think they were also doing some additional vocals as well for the hook and everything like that.
Yep.
Yep. So I'm looking at the liner notes now.
Yeah. I think it was Zach. Yeah, Zach did.
Yeah, and they actually Humble Beast actually signed Citizens and Saints as well in 2017 as well. So that was they've been making moves and stuff like that. Trying to bring in some really good talent. For folks who aren't familiar with Citizens and Saints, I think they were Mark Driscoll's old church, Mars Hill. I think they were one of the bands for the Mars Hill Church. I think King's Kaleidoscope also was at one point. I think that's the case. That's what I heard from a friend. But I know that both Citizens and King's Kaleidoscope are super dope bands, and I actually got to see Citizens perform live at the first campus conference that was held in 2016. So there was definitely was a real treat to be able to experience that in a worship setting. So it's funny also, like with Latifah, because I think she was for the very first episode of our podcast. We interviewed Latifah actually it was either just before or just after she had gone to Portland to record her vocals for her contribution to the album. And she told me about it afterwards, but she wanted to keep it she obviously had to keep it a secret during our interview, because we were interviewing her about something different. We were interviewing her at the time about her own album, Motospira, that had just dropped at the time. So it was really good to sort of get some sort of insider perspective to how the process went as the album was actually coming together. So that was pretty special. So let's see, track number 7, Mosaic, featuring Aaron Strumpel. Funny thing about Aaron Strumpel. So Aaron and Latifah are actually really good friends, and she's done some producing and some just helping him with some songs and stuff like that and some of his previous work. Probably his most well-known album is Bright Star, that he actually released several years ago. And I know that Latifah did some production on that as well, I do believe. And the two of them actually have a 2-piece band called Heck Yeah the Halls. So it's like a Christmas band. So it's cool to see both of them on this album near Christmas time, talking about the gospel. And just so it's good to see them, get into the holiday spirit, even in a more sort of explicit tone here. So it was good to. Aaron didn't. His vocals weren't overpowering. He complemented Braille well with Mosaic. Mosaic was kind of like it was an all right track. I don't know how I felt about it in terms of like where it fit cohesively within the overall structure of the album. I don't know if it added anything to the album other than just 3 minutes and 36 seconds. If it had just sort of been like a single that was outside of the scope of the album, I think it would have done just fine. Or if perhaps it had been on Aaron's album, which he's working on, called Fresh Cut Flowers, which is a rearrangement of some hymns and some original music as well. Maybe if that had been like a bonus track for that, perhaps. I don't know. But Mosaic was a good song, but I don't know that I felt it in quite the way as I would have. But I did really like Aaron's contribution on the hook and everything like that. And Braille rapped the entire thing as well. I think based on a live stream that I watched before Worthy dropped, or just after Worthy dropped, I think Braille and Thomas were talking that originally Mosaic was supposed to be Thomas's song, and Thomas was supposed to rap all the way through it, but for whatever reason they switched to rapping that entire song. But it was still pretty good. Braille is a flow monster, super transparent with his with his lyrics and everything like that. That's one of the reasons why he's my favorite rapper. Not the best rapper in the world, but definitely my favorite. Definitely one I resonate and relate the most to, I think. So it was pretty good to hear a whole Braille track on the album. Omnipotent featuring King's Kaleidoscope, I really liked this song. I really liked it a lot. I have King Kaleidoscope's most recent mixtape, that's featuring Braille, featuring Belief, featuring Derek Minor, featuring Propaganda. Like, it's just a super dope. Andy Minio's on it and everything like that. So it's just a super dope. It doesn't sound like a mixtape. It sounds like a full album. And it's really big and everything like that. So hearing the lead singer for King Kaleidoscope to be able to jump on this, onto Worthy was perfect timing for me, because I was still kind of riding on the King's Kaleidoscope high, and so I just was like a little bit extra there, and I felt like this fit in the album more snugly than Mosaic did. It was a good place to put it. The production was off the chain. Production for the whole album, obviously, is off the chain. Cortland has really, really, really grown as a producer, and working with Thomas and Braille together to sort of come up with that unique sound. He's done a really good job of that. And then we come to Devotion, track 9, featuring Pastor Art Azurdia. Now, for those who don't know,
that's my dude right there, man. Yeah.
This dude,
If he ever in SC, he can come to the house and eat.
this dude really great preacher, convicting preacher, and pastor of Trinity Church in Portland, Oregon. He's actually Braille and Thomas's lead pastor because they both go to Trinity Church up there in Portland, Oregon. And I gotta say, Art has been on all their albums up to this point. He never fails to deliver. This is it was no exception. Thomas said he spent a lot of hours going through there's Art sermons to try to find like the right snippet. And for a while it just seemed like he wasn't finding anything, and then he got this one. He said it just basically fit in perfectly with the music that Cortland already had scored for this section without him really having to tweak much, and they were like, yeah, I think this is the one. And then topically it fits in perfectly with the album. So it was Art's always a treat, and I would say out of all three albums, this has been the best Art insert. I would say this one and then the one from Satellite Kite, which was their first studio album, are probably the two best, in my opinion. The one in the Instruments of Mercy was good, but I really, really liked the Satellite Kite one, and then this one here on Devotion.
I disagree, but I feel you though.
Which one did you think was the best of the three then?
I think it's 2, 3, and 1. Like that's how it feels for me. Like Instruments of Mercy, Worthy, and then Satellite Kite.
Now I'm not talking albums wise when I say that.
I'm not talking albums. I'm talking about the Artaxerxes insert.
Oh, gotcha. 2, 3, and 1.
Yeah, like the one about the faith being like a kite attached to a kite string, and Satellite Kite, the beauty of mercy that he preached in Instruments of Mercy. Honestly, you could tell that they crafted their entire album after that. That's the only reason why I said that the levity of that one little insert, you could tell that they were probably inspired by that one sermon, and just like, yo, we gotta get on this. And this one, like I said, I love the insert, but I can't rate it over Instruments of Mercy insert for Artaxerxes. That's just me.
Yeah, fair enough. So then we come to Slain, which is track 10. I'm not gonna lie, I did like Cortland's creativity with taking basically taking part of Braille's verse from it's from Instruments of Mercy. I think it's Signs and Symbols.
It is.
And then chopping and screwing it and turning it into a hook. I do like the ingenuity.
It's from Organized Religion.
Oh, from Organized Religion.
Organize me.
Yeah, exactly. So
my heart, did you have every part of me? It was right before that. So it was it was Organized.
And that was featuring Eshawn and Jackie, right?
Yep.
So whereas I like the ingenuity and the creativity that went into it, I actually didn't like the song. It's sonically too distracting for me with the beat switches, and just the vibe for it. I just didn't feel it. Like, so like if I on the whole album, if I had to like lose 2 songs, just from sonic purposes, we're not talking about content or how good it is actually to your soul, because if we're talking about the nutritional value of the album, I would say every track stays. But if I had to, from a sonic perspective, lose 2 and don't think that the album would change much at all, I would take out Sovereign and I would take out Slain. And I skip those 2 almost every time. And when I'm listening to the album now, after about the 6th or 7th listen, I don't think I really listen to either of those 2 that much anymore when I'm going through the album. Sorry, fellas, I'm a super duper fan, I swear, but that was not for me sonically. The message, yes, but sonically that was not for me. It was really, really creative though. And then we come to Emmanuel, where Thomas does what he do again. You have really, really lush, instrumentals from Cortland, and then Thomas is just coming in there with that spoken word, man. He's a beast with that pen, like no lie. And you still see that same familiar motif that started in Wait, moved in through If, really became strong again in Messiah and in the Overture. And then so it's sort of reprising it again in Emmanuel. And then Emmanuel flows right into Worthy. Like if you're listening to this on a over like through an aux cord, you're gonna hear a pop or a skip or a stop. You don't do that. You need to listen to this on on like an MP3 device, or you need to listen to it like on a computer or something like that, or on on the vinyl, because they sell vinyl for this, and just let it flow right on in, because it's like one seamless sort of piece with it. And it's top-notch stuff. If I had to rank final songs, because they always put their strongest foot on the final songs of the Beautiful Eulogy albums. If I had to order these in terms of final songs, I would say 3, 2, and 1. I'd have to say that Worthy's the strongest final song on there. And then let's see, what did they do for Instruments of Mercy? Acquired in Heaven, which was really good. Okay, I'll take it back. I would say Worthy, Satellite Kite, which their final song on that was Beautiful Eulogy, and then Acquired in Heaven on Instruments of Mercy. Acquired in Heaven didn't leave too much of an impression on me, not in the way that Satellite Kite did, and certainly not in the way that Worthy did, the title track for this.
Agreed.
For this album. It was super dope, but it didn't leave the same kind of impact.
I think with Instruments of Mercy, I mean, this is just me. I think they should have ended with Only You Can Save Me. Like I like that song. I was like, this is just placed in a wrong place. Even with Odd Thomas kind of ending it with a spoken word, I was like, that would have been a perfect ending for the album. But but it was like right in the middle or right at the very beginning. It was very weird.
I think it was like track 7 or something like that. But it was like right in the middle of the album.
But that song could have ended that album.
Oh, it was number 5. Number 5.
So I mean, like I think that could have been I think that should have been the end. I mean, as weird as it is, when I organize, I know I'm put that at the end. I put Only You Can Save Me at the end. That's my favorite track on the whole album. Instruments of Mercy. Yeah.
Has that always been your favorite track on there, or has it changed with Instruments of Mercy?
So with Instruments of Mercy, it's been Artaxerxia and Only You Can Save Me. those are my 2 favorite tracks on that album. Only You Can Save Me, just because there is so much there's beauty in the vocals of that chorus.
Oh, Mars, she did a fantastic job on that. Mars did a great job.
I mean, I was like, yo, like it is like I said, and I think that would have been a better ending to Instruments of Mercy. That's my choice. If I was organizing, I would have put that at the end. I wouldn't have put the other one. I would have put the other one probably like where Only You Can Save Me was, like at track 5. That would have been me. Kind of got right before Artaxerxia started talking, or right after one of them 2.
I would say that I don't know if I would have. I see your argument with that. I don't know if I would have ended Instruments of Mercy with You Can Save Me. You Can Save Me was initially my favorite song, but I had a really hard time listening to Instruments of Mercy because it was so sonically different from Satellite Kite. So I was kind of a fan of Cortland's production style, with the sort of taking a bunch of junk sounds and seemingly unusable sounds and then throwing them together with with an unusual sort of meter kind of thing like that and making something of it. And they used a lot of that in Satellite Kite. So I was already a fan of his production style at that time. So even though I know that Satellite Kite was not as cohesive a project, it was mostly just taking a bunch of beats that Cortland had already started or had already finished already, and then Thomas and Braille just kind of rapping over it. I realized that when they came to Instruments of Mercy, they actually had a full concept album, one that from start to finish was really intentional. But sonically, Satellite Kite was really like a launch pad for me. So by the time we got to Instruments of Mercy, not only was the content much, much heavier, but sonically it was like some Mumford & Sons type stuff, which that wasn't really sonically my lane. So it took me about a month to really get down into Instruments of Mercy, and to really enjoy it as a project. Even though there were certain singles on it that were good. So by the time I really acclimated to it, I had transitioned from You Can Save Me being my favorite to The Size of Grace, second from the last track number 13, with Braille's just kind of rapping all the way through. That track breaks my heart just about every single time. So I would say with Worthy, they sort of took the same sort of energy that they had with Instruments of Mercy, and they made a full sort of narrative concept album. I would say the thing that they did better was that this time they had a motif that ran throughout, like you mentioned earlier on. Like you hear it in Wait, you hear it in If, you hear it really push up again in Overture and Messiah, and then you hear it push up really hard again in Emmanuel and Worthy. And if you listen to it as one sort of continuous thing, Worthy actually runs right into Wait because it has the same chord progression. So you can actually listen to the album continuously on a loop forever, and still have that same motif going. You can tell that Braille has really grown in his ability as a mix engineer, because I went back and listened to Satellite Kite and Instruments of Mercy, and the mix leaped like leaps and bounds into Instruments of Mercy, but now he's like in a whole different universe mix wise with Worthy. Like the mix is out of this world. Like it's so good. It's a superior effort. It's probably the best thing Humble Beast has offered yet to date, in my opinion. It's so good. Do you have anything to add to that? Like the sound of it or anything like that?
Well, I'll rank it, like since I think that was one of the last next to the last questions, it's like I'll rank the album. I will put Worthy at the top. Like I said, I'll literally do 3, 2, 1. Worthy, just because you felt the growth. Like there was a 4-year gap between albums, between Instruments of Mercy and Worthy. I mean, like I think Instruments of Mercy came out 2013 or something like that. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
So like that, and then in between, they worked with so many different styles between 2013 and 2017. I mean, you had Eshawn Burgundy, you had Jay Givens, you had Propaganda, you had Jackie Hill Perry, you had Show Baraka, which honestly last year that's my jam, man. It's still my jam. Narrative is still lit. I mean, like that's
it's still good.
I pop back in, I'm like, dang, man. Like it makes me want to buy a record player. Like to listen to Narrative, because it feels like it's got that old 50s, 40s vibe to it. And I'm like, yo, this deserves to be put on a vinyl. But you saw how they grew. You could feel it in the album, where you see that they worked on so many different projects, they've gone to so many different places, and they've learned so much. And it was expressed very well in this album, where it was where Worthy is, like I said, just from the first chord, put tears in my eyes. Man, I was like, what is happening in my room right now? Like it was I could literally feel the weight of those keys, the pain behind those keys. I mean, like that's I think the only other album this year that put me in that level of worship was Hope Where There Was None by Loudheart. I mean, like that whole album, you could feel the pain. You could feel the suffering for the gospel throughout that whole album. And I could feel that in this, especially like just seeing the growth and seeing where they want to go. And after that, I will put Instruments of Mercy, just because Instruments of Mercy, to me, I understand where Julian was coming from when it came to sonic, on like the sonic sound. So I'm not particularly that type of guy. It could be a cappella to me. I don't need a beat. I mean, I listen to the words more, but sometimes the beat just hits you. But when it came to Instruments of Mercy, the words or the verbiage used in that was so completely different from Satellite Kite. Satellite Kite, you could tell, was an entry album where they were like, okay, let's see if we can figure some things out. Not saying they just threw it together, but you kind of feel that they were just testing the water. But like to me, Instruments of Mercy was a better album than Satellite Kite. Do believe that Instruments of Mercy was not as well put together as Satellite Kites and Worthy, but as far as like a cohesive message, it was cohesive completely through Worthy and Instruments of Mercy. It wasn't as cohesive through Satellite Kite. Like, and that's just one of my things. Not saying it's a bad. I love all 3 albums, but that's one of the things you could tell was like a bunch of mixed songs. And Satellite Kites, it's just it was a bunch of songs with themes, but they were not thematic. The whole album wasn't thematic. It was like, here's our intro, here's who we are. But then Instruments of Mercy pop, it was one theme, mercy. And you got the Worthy, there was one theme, worthy, the worthiness of the Lamb. Like that was the theme of each one of those albums. So that's me. I'll put 3, 2, 1. Yep.
I had a good friend of mine recently who, I guess, he finally sat down and actually like listened to Worthy all the way through, And he was like, "Is this even the same band?" He said because like he noticed that the sound had progressed so much from what they'd done in 2012 with Satellite Kite, and I could understand where he was coming from, from that perspective. Like each album has a completely different sound than the others. I would say if I had to guess, I would say probably the person who's grown the most, if we're talking about what an average person can hear contributed to the album, probably the person who's grown the most has probably been Cortland, as a musician, and as a producer in terms of like what pulls on the heartstrings and stuff like that. And I think he talked a little bit about it during the live stream that they had for the sort of like the release of Worthy. He's been helping to do worship at church, because he also go to church with Braille and with Thomas, and he be playing on the piano and stuff like that. And so I think he's gotten an idea of what it means to help lead worship through that process, and it's made him a different kind of musician than when they first started, where he was very much a hip hop DJ-ish kind of a producer who was really trying to carve kind of like a niche sound, something that was going to be uniquely his. So he really jumped out the box and did some very new stuff. I felt like it was a really good combination of everything that he'd done previously. So you really get to hear some of that experimental sound in this, but you also hear really disciplined, very intentional, worshipful sound as well that I don't know that they completely achieved from cover to cover on Instruments of Mercy. I think they started to crack it in Instruments of Mercy, but I think that they really achieved it now. I feel like now they found a sound, if that makes sense. So if they ever did another album, I feel like I know kind of what to expect, if that makes sense. Stuff from sort of behind the scenes that maybe people would notice in the difference. Like I said, Braille has really grown as a mix engineer, and as an A&R. So he sort of has a better idea now, probably the best idea in terms of how to structure an album and how to help executive produce and how to make all the individual instruments pop in the ways that they're supposed to. I felt Thomas really grew in his ability to flow. I feel like because of the unusualness of the music, I felt like it forced him to do some things with his lyrics and with his rhyme scheme that he hadn't really done in anything I'd ever heard him in before. And I've got almost everything out there that you can find with Odd Thomas on it. So it was good. If I had to order them, in terms of sonics, it's going to be 3, 1, 2. But in terms of richness of content, it's going to be 3, 2, 1. Like with you, just because it's cohesion and what actually makes an album, it's definitely 3, 2, 1. They've stair-stepped this for sure. All right, so we're going to hit here for our final segment. In season 2, we've introduced a thing called a shouting moment. For those who are not familiar with what a shouting moment is, if you ever go to Southern Black Church and preacher is getting revved up and he's making points, when he says something that in your bones that you should definitely agree with, if the spirit is in you, that's a shouting moment. You should be saying some amen and amen. Yes, pastor. Come on, you know what I'm saying? And then there should be some amen going on there. You should be ready to stand up. You might be ready to rush the stage. That's what a shot.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully you will be in order and will not rush the stage. But you may want to. So and then whoever's leading worship that day can also influence that shouting moment, because if they get on that organ and start messing around, before you know it, people are going to be cutting a rug up there in Black church. That's what a shouting moment is in Black church. So in the spirit of a shouting moment, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our favorite part of the Worthy album experience. We're going to amen. We're going to amen what really sort of stuck out for the album Worthy experience. So Trevor, go ahead and give us your shouting moment on this, sir.
I have to say my is weird. I mean, once again, I'm just such a fan of OT spoken word. The whole album was fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but the Emmanuel, man, I mean, that I could close. I mean, I actually close my eyes every single time I hear Emmanuel. I have to watch myself when I'm on the road, because I don't feel right with my eyes open. Hearing him speak Emmanuel, I mean, hearing him do the spoken word Emmanuel is so rich. It's so much imagery in his spoken word. I mean, you're pretty much getting a it's almost like you can close your eyes and see heaven, you know, like when he's speaking like about what's happening before the birth of the Messiah. You get to see, you know, him condescending towards earth. You know, and just I was like, man, it was such beautiful imagery. That every time I hear it, you know, it gives me chills. And then of course, like Julian addressed earlier, the moment it's the beat does not stop going into Worthy. So it's Emmanuel and Worthy to me are one song. It's not a separate song. That's all one track. But I understand why they had to separate it. But as far as like sonically, it's the same track. I mean, I was like, this is pretty much a continuation. He says he's Emmanuel, God with us, and then you hear the beat, and it just goes right in a dun 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 dun. I mean, that same beat from Wait that they have been playing with, like just mess with your emotions the entire album. He brings you right back into the home, man. I mean, I thought that was an amazing portion of the album that always gets me hyped every time I hear it.
Yeah, amen to that. And so I would say because we're about to wrap up our time, for my shouting moment, what I would say, I was able to like, because I got the physical, but I also like got the digital as well. I always try to do both, or sometimes get a couple physicals. Um, the best part of the Worthy album experience for me was getting ready to leave in the morning or coming home from work in the evening time and finding my CD missing because my wife was taking it and going and listening to it herself on her commute to work and school and everything like that. So the fact that I was actually able to share this with my spouse and for us to listen to it separately and then come together and listen to it together on a road trip and really kind of talk about it, like for me that was super special. So the shareability of Worthy and it sort of having like a unifying kind of effect. And neither of the two previous albums had that. So for me, it was being able to share it with somebody. Yeah, so that's my shout moment. So, folks, to wrap it up, again, thank you so much for tuning in for the Fading Embers podcast. This is the Worthy album review episode. If you want to get Worthy, don't waste time. Go out to humblebeast.com, download it for free, or go to their store and buy a physical copy, or go to iTunes or wherever you purchase music. If you want to know more about us, check us out or anything like that, definitely take a look in the comments below and you'll be able to see links to our social media pages. You can find us on Twitter at Empty Wonderland. You can find us on Tumblr at emptywonderlandcollective.tumblr.com. You can find us on Facebook, Empty Wonderland Collective. You can also find us on Instagram, Empty Wonderland Collective. Again, this is Julian and this is Trevor. And definitely check us out. We got more and more good content coming from you. Thank you so much for joining us for season 2. And grace and peace to you.